All right. Welcome to Spartalknewztalk, your plucky working class source for the news you need and it takes you trust, because it's just us local bar folk doing all the reporting, tech, and interviews once a week. And that's not to suggest that we aren't open to selling out. I mean, if the Koch brothers are looking for someone with more street cred than, say, Dave Rubin, we're happy to write up some takes on cancel culture. So if you see us reporting from a nice big mansion, railing against Jack Dorsey, you will know why. Or again, if Jack Dorsey wants to make us an offer, and then we've got some takes against the Koch brothers. But making us look and feel right is my fantastic technician and co-host, Haakim Walker. Haakim, we're not drinking tonight, are we?
So I am on a 6-week detox cleanse, no alcohol, no sugar, no carbs, and it sucks for anyone who wants to try it.
And out of solidarity, I got my water today.
Yes, thank you for not drinking in front of me, Jack. I appreciate it.
Well, especially for bartenders, I think it's important that we just share with our audience that it's important to take breaks. It's very important to take breaks, especially if you're in this industry. And
your liver is not finite; it will not last forever.
Always get water, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
We're also working with the Barry today to combat the Zoom audio issues we've been having, but we tested it beforehand, so it should sound a lot better. But all of you future people out there can tell us how we did in that regard. In any case, it is Tuesday, March 23rd, and today in the news, Mario Gonzalez, a man who survived the shooting that killed his wife at the Atlanta massage parlor last week, says that the police detained him handcuffed for 4 hours after the attack, well after the police released security video footage of the actual accused gunman. 4 others were killed an hour after the first shooting at 2 spas in town. This accusation focuses more scrutiny on police officials after Cherokee Sheriff Captain Jay Baker was removed as spokesman for telling reporters that the shooter, Robert Aaron Long, had a really bad day. Yesterday, Ahmad Aliwi Alisa, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong, 21-year-old Arvada, Denver resident, is accused of opening fire yesterday at a Colorado supermarket, killing 10. Witnesses say the shooter was using a semi-automatic rifle, and while the motivation is so far unclear, investigations are underway. I'm sure some people will say, given his name, that it's terrorism, and others will say that this is an unhinged gun nut. The only thing I'm sure that nobody is about to say is that he had a really bad day. A reparations grant program will take effect soon in Evanston, Illinois. Evanston City Council approved the first phase of their reparations plan yesterday. It established a $400,000 housing grant program. It's the result of a larger $10 million plan approved in 2019 and is funded in part by marijuana sales tax revenue. Do you have a take on that, Haakim?
I'm for it.
My sister lives close to Evanston and like Wilmette or whatever, but she being very white, she will not.
She's not going to get it. So
no, she's not going to get it.
Make sure she knows it.
I don't think. I think she knows. I think she.
Okay, just to be safe, just let her know. She doesn't qualify.
No, she does not. Unless she's not telling me something. I don't know.
Yeah, but I was going to say about that is on a similar note, did you see it was a somewhat viral clip with Steven Crowder doing extraordinary backflips of racism?
Oh, Jesus. Yes, we will bring it. I did see that. We will bring up that clip probably maybe next week.
Yeah, let's try that next week. But as far as like, that's not a reparation per se, but it is, kind of a restitution for having, and I think I've told you that my family has a farm in Fresno, California.
Yeah.
And so Steven Crowder, there are black farmers. We do exist. My family has owned a farm since 1971.
And historically disenfranchised, almost more than any other group. In like, I mean, it's ridiculous. And like, I mean, yes, the the Hennessy plants. It's
you know what it is,
so
and we can talk about this
reprehensible.
next week. I'm not even mad about the racism. I'm more mad about the bad comedy and how
Yes,
lazy they
I
are.
agree.
They're just horrible. They suck, like, and this person is supposed to be professional comedy. I was like, this is just bad comedy. You're just a horrible comedian.
No, he's an epically
Lazy,
bad
yeah.
comedian for
Yeah.
a
The
long
reason why
ass
you
time.
don't see, like, the reason he doesn't do it full time is because he sucks at it. But yeah.
Steven Crowder is a shitty comedian. Changed my mind, and we've got to go to the Wayne State campus and see if anybody takes me up. I don't think anybody's going to try to change my mind, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good initiative to do. We should try.
Yeah, no, it'll be that could be an episode for sure. The White House is currently preparing a $3 trillion infrastructure bill and a jobs package with universal pre-K, climate measures, and free community college. It's expected to be the centerpiece of President Biden's Build Back Better agenda. And, I'm not loving all of the details of these bills, but I just like that there's a lot of bills that are actually addressing these problems that, it seems like it's actually, some of the money is actually going to the right place. So,
yeah, I mean, we'll see. Like,
we will see.
These bills are designed to kind of be, like, statements to show that we're doing something. But I'm not convinced that they're going to last, up to the, midterms.
We'll do a deep dive on this one particularly soon, but I'm just saying there are more bills. He could have treaded water more than he has, and I expected him to.
Yeah. What's your weekly?
What's my grade?
What's
what's
your grade this week?
Well, the vaccine's worn off a little bit, so I think I'm back. I think I'm pretty much status quo with where I was where he's like a C+ or whatever. I'm still not crazy about how he's doing with immigration, and but I mean, again, I'm not grading him on a curve that is Donald Trump. So I know you are.
Yeah, I am.
What's your grade?
That is.
What's your grade?
It's still it's the same because until we get out of.
I think you said B-, right?
I said I think B-, or maybe higher, but only because of where we are in history. And I said this a few weeks ago, like how this is unprecedented.
And then last.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Did you have? Okay.
I was expanding on what I said, a few weeks ago about being unprecedented and not knowing. Yeah.
So lastly,
could do well.
Did you get your vaccination yet?
So I had my first vaccination, and I think I have the second one in 2 weeks now. Yeah.
So I have mine, and as a bartender is what we're qualifying under with working in Detroit. But the city of Detroit has opened up eligibility for vaccination, accepting residents as well as those who work in the city. Ford Field plans to inoculate 5,000 people a day. Anyone 16 and up in Michigan will be eligible starting April 5th. This in response to COVID-19 cases increasing to 633,191. That's cases with a death toll of 15,919. So it's definitely we're experiencing a surge right now. We're going to put in the top and the bottom of this video, all the information of how to sign up. And I don't know. Like, I mean, as somebody who's fully vaccinated, Haakim, so far I don't mind the gills. It's nice to be able to take a bath and be submerged the whole time. That's all.
Yeah.
I won't know. But you'll find out. You've only had one shot.
You don't gotta rub it in.
Right.
We can go around without a mask now. I get it. Yeah.
Our guest today is a cosplayer and massage therapist from Hawaii and an old friend of mine, Olivia. How have you been, Olivia?
Okay, there it is. Hi.
Love your background.
Hey. Thanks.
That's really cool.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too. It's been years.
Yeah, I know. That's why I thought of you, because of your post in Atlanta shooting, which is extremely hard to talk about for anyone, let alone you. But it is also inextricably linked to the three topics that inspired this show: sex, politics, and religion. The shooter, Robert Aaron Long, identifies as a Southern Baptist who struggled with a self-diagnosed sex addiction, but also inherent in the politics of this is a fourth topic: race. So you're a massage therapist, and as you said in your post, an attractive Asian woman. We actually met almost what, well, a decade ago in the Midwest cosplay scene, and since then you've moved to Hawaii and kept up with cosplay. And I can only imagine the objectification you felt in those communities. But you also said in your post that that was the reason that you hesitated in considering massage therapy as a career. So could you go a little bit into what caused that hesitation and why you ultimately decided to pursue it?
Well, I mean, it all oddly enough started back the in the back of a marching band bus on the way to like invitationals with one of my closest friends, Angela Style. She had these ambitions of becoming an international model, and she loved my shoulder rubs and wanted me to like become a professional massage therapist, to like be her personal masseuse and work on her shoulders. So she would keep telling me like, you need to do this for a living, and I don't know, I felt apprehensive about it, like with the Vietnamese background, and like I said in my post, the sexual trait that was mixed into it, because of imperialistic, U.S. market demand, as a result of the Vietnam War, and how they, of course, treated the bodies of Vietnamese women and children out there. So, I mean, there's a stereotype that's been born from it that I had known about for a really long time. You see it in the media how Asian women are fetishized in that way. So I was apprehensive about being seen that way as soon as I identify myself as a massage therapist, and with the way I look. Um, what made me ultimately consider it was being able to see my friend's homework for it in order to get licensed in Michigan, because she went to a school in Southfield. So that's pretty close to where you're at. I
So
think
you started
that
here.
they're no, I didn't. My friend did.
Oh, okay.
So just seeing like the amount of anatomy, physiology, and stuff that's like involved with the requirement to be a massage therapist was what made me feel safer about it. Like it was just a little bit more content than high school anatomy and physiology. Um, and then kinesiology, muscle attachments, and things like that, like things to memorize and understand about people's bodies, because you are digging into that kind of stuff. So you should know the relationship between what your physical impact is and the circulatory system. But yeah, so that was what ultimately made me feel safe about it, was the amount of education that it takes to be a massage therapist.
And how would you characterize the industry and the qualifications processing, or whatever you would call it, in Hawaii versus what you saw in Michigan?
Well, before I left Michigan, you actually didn't need a license. And now I don't remember
Hmm.
what year it was
Yeah,
that they started
licensing.
licensing. Um, but yeah, each state has different requirements. And let me just quick look up what the requirements are for Michigan licensing. But I know that here in Hawaii, it's 570 hours of training required. And the program I went through here, in Kahului, they gave us 750 hours of training.
Also, I have to get better at introducing my co-host to my guest.
Yeah, thanks, Jack.
I just realized Haakim, Olivia, Haakim.
Hello.
Hey, Lee, how you doing?
Sorry,
Good. How are you?
before because we were doing the news segment, but yes, you two hadn't met, but yes, so. So the shooter in Atlanta claims that this crime was not racially or hate motivated, but sexually and religiously motivated. But based on the amount of strip clubs that are in the area and the the specific chosen targets, I mean, that kind of, from an outside observer, that kind of boils down to him saying, no, it wasn't racism. I'm attracted to Asian women, so I had to kill a bunch of them. But nonetheless, Atlanta only passed hate crime legislation last year, so I have no idea how easy it would be to apply that standard. So, what do you think on hate? What do you think? What's your opinion of hate crime laws, and do you think this qualifies?
Mm. That's a really good question. I hadn't thought about it that way exactly. Um,
Well, tell me how you initially thought about it, and then we can tease it out.
well, there's the from what I've observed with the way that cosplayers are treated too is just the entitlement to their bodies and their content, and the way that they end up getting stalked and harassed by people, some of their followers. Um, when they feel probably self-diagnosing themselves with as sex addiction too. So I mean, there is this layer culturally of the stereotype of, and then it came out, I think, that these women were sex workers too. Um, that rejection somehow becomes a way for people who felt entitled to their bodies to become violent, to somehow justify violence with the way that, the sheriff said that, he just had a bad day.
Yeah, and we'll talk about that. But it does seem your point is well taken. They were almost like props in his narrative, and it almost seemed like that sheriff was reflecting his thought processes after after having I have a horrible day and I have this temptation, and it doesn't matter that these are people because they are also props in my psyche for my narrative.
Mhm.
So that's I but
Like I,
yeah, sorry, go on.
when it comes to calling this a hate crime, I would look back to how Black women are objectified and treated, and the violence that has been inflicted on them, and see how that would be called a hate crime exactly. Because I don't know, like hate, when it comes to hate crimes, I think of Mark Wahlberg beating the crap out of
Yeah.
Vietnamese men when he was like 17 or something. Like that's, but
Yeah, and now he has Entourage and Wahlburgers, and nobody talks about that ever.
yeah.
It's really. Did you hear about that story, Hakeem?
What's that?
Mark Wahlberg as a kid just was.
Yeah, he beat a Vietnamese man till he's blind and threw rocks at a young black
It's
girl. Yeah.
when I heard about. I mean, I never was a fan of
He
Mark
also
Wahlberg
released
anyway.
really
So
shitty hip hop, so
Right.
yes.
that's almost worse in my opinion. But no, but yeah, the fact that he can be a multimillionaire and have nothing happen to him. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that you touched on, Olivia, is that I it may have come out that they did say that these victims were sex workers, but from what I've seen, the media was very careful not to say whether these victims were sex workers or not, partially because it's impossible to confirm, but also I understand that there's a stigma in Korean and Asian communities around it, and you spoke to your own what you see as a stigma in the Vietnamese community. Um, is there also a stigma among massage therapists or towards sensual massage workers? And what, if anything, can be done about it? And can you just speak on your experience as an Asian woman in the industry in general?
I mean, like, even if you're not Asian, you do end up, worrying about creeps. And like my entire class, we were super shy and apprehensive about even like working on people's like hips, like afraid of, people like getting the wrong idea when we touch their butts.
Yeah.
Even though like, there's a ton of muscle there with the deep six, gluteus medius, tensor fascia lata, all those things do need to be worked on. But we were still like, I hope they're not like, wanting anything extra with this. Like,
Yeah.
um, and things like that. We're
And of course,
touching,
in some circles they are, and they do.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
But you said that you do like in your practice you don't mix sex with it at all, but but you don't, and you have no judgment. You said this in your post towards
mhm.
those who do, but that something about the demands of the industry uh, kind of gives you what's the word, a bad taste in your mouth, right?
Yeah, a bit. I know that massage licensing has been in an effort to try to maybe make it seem like they're adding safety to it. At the same time, I can see how that's a way to denigrate sex workers and punish them more when uh, punitive measures are just not the answer to all this. Like I'd rather that we have this society where, like, you know, any intentions of going into body work for like sexual pleasure is just like, if they communicate that to me, I can just send them away and, you know, charge them for wasting my time and just say, like, no, this is not the area. You can go over there
Right.
instead or something. Like, just don't bother me with it, or don't bother any other therapist, you know, who's explicitly saying, like, that's not what they do. And at the same time, I have known therapists too who also say, like, if they had known how much it would have expanded their income, they would have, you know, done more sex work
And it
and
wouldn't
things like that.
it wouldn't have bothered them.
Right.
Right. Like, right.
But
So
it's really a matter of like informed consent. And that's a
yeah.
huge issue that we have in this country of like communicating.
So we talked a little bit about Cherokee Sheriff Captain Jay Baker being removed as a spokesperson after describing the shooting as a really bad day for the
Mhm.
shooter. A post of his on Facebook from last year shows him promoting a shirt he bought that says COVID-19 imported virus from China, with China spelled to phonetically match Donald Trump's pronunciation.
Mhm.
Is the increased violence we've seen and hatred towards Asian Americans the fault of Donald Trump?
Uh, he has definitely amplified it, because the rhetoric, you know, against Asians has been uh, pretty long standing. I mean, you see all these headlines from like The Economist, like, you know, the Red Scare, the dragons of, you know, China taking over the markets and things like that. Like, there's a lot of xenophobia that isn't just against Muslims from, you know, the 9/11 attacks. There's all kinds. Um, so I mean, there was also, you know, the Japanese internment camps that George Takei, you know, brought back up too because of the anti-Asian rhetoric that came up from COVID. Um, and yeah,
You said during, so wait, your answer would be most
he
like somewhat.
like he amplified it. I mean, we
Yeah.
can see like with what happened on Capitol Hill that it's like it was through his rhetoric and administration that all these different flags of white supremacy consolidated.
Yeah.
And we can't act like that it's been him solely, but he did give him a reason to unite
Yeah.
um, in that way under his flag, under his name.
I agree. The you did say in your post that you've like in your career you've only, what was it, experienced like two creep
Only
situations.
yeah,
Yeah.
only three.
Oh, okay, three.
I'd like well the efforts that I like kind of put into my composure in order to reduce the chances of encountering a creep or for like someone who might suspect anything more from me has been in my demeanor when I approach when I approach the client too. You know, I completely uh, just throw away any um, like all of my sensual energy as much as I can. Of course, I never wear makeup to work. I don't know. And then my mom says that like I walk like a warrior. I don't have like any sway to my hips when I walk or things like that.
Uh,
And then it's the depth and pressure that I give too is usually hopefully a warning sign that you shouldn't fuck up when you're on my table.
so you're
So
saying
that seems to work so far.
if you hadn't taken these precautions, you think you would have encountered far more creeps, is what you're
I
saying.
think, and then just
Mhm.
like, you know, my manner of speaking, like how I'm speaking now, like pretty clearly, like I'm more likely to call it out rather than be a victim of, you know, blurred lines,
Right.
so to speak, because it seems like, you know,
That shitty Robin Thicke song. Right.
well, it's like yeah, so it's more likely I think if my English wasn't so like Midwest and articulate, if I did have an Asian accent, I think I would you know, encounter uh more nonsense from people probably.
I'm glad to see you again, and I'm glad you could elaborate on your post as you said yesterday. You said that most of your posts are shit posting, political rants, and cosplay stuff, but that's why I wanted to have you on, because you're a real person from a real working class industry, and actually You have great shit posts, rants, and cosplays, incidentally. So thank you very much for zooming in from Hawaii today.
And it's good to meet you, Haakim.
Good to meet you too. Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, like, pretty much, if anything can come out of this that's good, what do you think is, from your opinion, what do you think a good thing can come out of this?
Well, so far, like just today,
Good
I
question.
saw like that headline and some video footage from Now This. I'm seeing what was it? Black activists uniting and supporting in solidarity with Asian Americans and stuff, and just coming together and understanding the intersectionalities of what we go through when it comes to the consequences of white supremacy embedded in so many aspects of these structural systems in our country, in our communities, and things like that. So, being able to talk about these things and is really nice. And I know the civil rights movement, like from Black Americans, has been has given a lot of foothold to even talk about racial issues in general. And I really appreciate, Martin Luther King speaking out in solidarity too for Asians, like with his stances against the Vietnam War back then too. So all our struggles are against white supremacy. And
do you think anything from a policy standpoint, do you think would you want to see anything like that that would maybe, I know like we talked about the legislation for certain, but as far as like regulating like the industry that this is, because it seems to impact Asian Americans a little more than other communities. Do you think would be a solution? Or
yeah, like decriminalization basically, so that it's not like what is it? It seems like I have no experience to speak from with Asian sex workers in these industries, and I know like some of them are also even trafficked here in order to do this work. So I just want them to be free of any of these like kind of hostage situations of like, or blackmail situations of having to do this work but still not be completely safe.
And it'd be easier to suss out if it were just regulated, not legal, black marketed or whatnot. So yeah, that's totally true. And did you and a follow up to that? Did you say that you were in support of hate crime legislation, and particularly in this case?
Yeah, I think so. Especially with how much more violence has been coming out against Asians, and yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing I like, the assault weapons ban. I like is something that Biden just came out with for which, so we might have another one. And I was fairly ambivalent to that idea, I think, originally. But like the hate crime legislation, it's just like at some point you get bombarded by so much. There was just another shooting yesterday in Colorado, and I'm at a loss of what else to do. Not that I necessarily would claim to know, but at least it seems like at some point you do anything you can do.
Right.
But yeah. Like I said, thank you very much. It was very last minute, so we really appreciate you coming in, filling in for this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And we will be back next week, Tuesday night filming, Wednesday afternoon release. Stay safe and sane, my friends, and we will see you next time.